And what is going on? Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having an excellent week. On this episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast, we're covering the art of objection handling, leadership, not sales, how to have difficult conversations with patients from the frame of helping them make the best decision that's going to put them in the position that is best for them, their longevity, and long term for their family. And we're seeing a really common issue where people are afraid to have those honest conversations under the premise that they think it's fear mongering, and it's really difficult when you are unable to get the patients that need you the most because they're the most skeptical, when in reality those are the people that need our help the most. And so today we're going to be covering the kind of nuances that separate the people who are just order takers or salespeople from true healthcare leaders that are guiding people to lead happier, healthier, more active lifestyles. And so we're going to cover what is the why the best clinicians are leaders, not order takers, the hidden root of most objections and how to eliminate them early on in the sales process. They don't even happen, creating what we call the objectionless close. And then the exact language patterns that you need to follow to overcome any objection that you're going to get, because inevitably, no matter how good you are at pre-handling objections, we're going to get them. We're in premium healthcare. Okay, it's a pretty new concept for a lot of people. We're always going to get some objections. And so there's some really easy language patterns that we can follow to make sure that we handle them. Ben, I know this is an issue that you have just been communicating with your team. So what's your stance on this subject here today?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to what is best for the patient. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, what if you got an objection, like, pretend that you're speaking to a loved one across the phone line. Like, what would you say to your parents if they had like a cost for insurance objection and they were thinking about going insurance-based clinic? How would you educate them? Or would you just be like, oh, I don't want to be too pushy? No, you very well, a lot of times too, people don't understand the gravity of this phone call, that this very well could be the last time that this patient has the opportunity to get the help that they need. But you did not want to push them or feel like you're pushing them or be salesy or do fear mongering, and they never get the result that they want to the rest of their life. They go get injections, they go get surgery, surgery complications. They get addicted to pain medication. That's the thing, is if somebody doesn't convert on the phone, a lot of times you have 99.9% of the time you have no idea what happened to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee, like, if you're not doing a good job of that, there's dire consequences that are occurring with these patients because you did not do your in my opinion, the ethical thing and your ethical obligation of educating these people on the difference and why they should work with you. You've got an innate skill and platform to do so, and it's unethical not to advocate for it.
Right. It doesn't just stop there. Like, when they get to the visit, like, maybe we sell them on the idea of coming in for a session and trying cash pay. But then when we tell them the cost of the program or package that we're selling them to get them the result, and all of a sudden their fear and their habits and the way they make decisions kicks in, and they're too afraid to make the commitment that they need to, and they end up going in network, and then they end up spending way more because they go in, they get their symptoms treated, they get a little bit better, but then 3-6 months down the road, they're doing it all over again. And then it's this constant repetitive cycle where they get a little bit better, then they get re-injured, then they get a little bit better, re-injured, until they give up on the things that make them them. They stop running, they stop going to the gym because they just don't think it's worth it anymore, because they just think that it is an inevitability that they're going to keep getting injured, they're going to eventually need surgery, and they're just going to have to give this up because they never got the help they needed because we were too afraid to tell them the reality of the situation and show them the cost of inaction and ask them the questions that's going to guide them to being their best self. And so it's not about becoming a salesperson. Okay. The difference between leadership and things being salesy is the intention behind it. People are salesy when they don't believe that what it is that they're selling is actually going to transform somebody's life. But when you know in your soul that what you have to offer is going to change this person's life, then it is our obligation to help ask the questions that's going to guide that person to make the best decision for themselves. And if they don't, that's fine. But if you know that you can help them and you don't explain to them why it's important that they allow you to help them, well, then that's your fault. Okay. And yeah, it might feel good that you didn't have to apply a little bit of pressure for folks, but how does it feel when you see that person on the streets a few months down the road and they're still having this exact same problem? That's on you. And so we have to, especially in cash pay physical therapy or any cash pay profession, we have to start to recognize that we are leaders. You have all of this education and all this information. And if you're not willing to ask the questions to provide the education and the knowledge for people to make informed decisions, what the hell are we doing? Who's going to help them if we're not?
Yeah, there's I don't know if you got any listeners here are Seinfeld fans, but there's an episode where George goes see a physical therapist, and he comes back and he tells Jerry, he's like, these guys are like gatekeeping. They're like the most intelligent individuals in the planet, and they can solve all these injuries, and they're gatekeeping it. And just like essentially like amazed by how awesome and the skill set that a physical therapist has. And I think that's really important to really understand, is like how much knowledge and how much you can actually change people's lives. And just how blown away people are when they actually get in front of you and you can show them how you can help. So.
Right. It's good. I haven't watched Seinfeld in forever. Is that a show that you binged?
Me and the lads growing up, we watched a lot of Seinfeld.
Yeah. I love it. That was one that I know I've seen a lot, where it's like, oh, I wake up on the couch like 3 a.m. and it's on. But never actually just sat down and watched some Seinfeld. I know a lot of my friends tell me I should. But anyway, back to the point, healthcare leaders are the ones that recognize that a lot of patients are in their situations and are in front of them because of false beliefs that they have, bad habits that they have, and patterns that they've just adopted throughout their life that cause this problem to happen. Healthcare leaders can recognize that, and they know that it's their responsibility to help shift those beliefs, to help create new patterns, and to provide the information that helps them to see their situation in a different light, so they can start to prioritize their health and take the right action, so that giving up their favorite activities isn't an inevitability. And so that is really what the responsibility is. And so we have to get better at asking better questions. And if you ask the right questions, well, then you can eliminate most of the doubt and fears that your prospects are going to have. And it's going to make converting them into your long-term care packages a heck of a lot easier. So let's talk about the top objections that we know you're getting. And then let's go over, like, how do we pre-handle those objections? So Ben, what are the top objections here?
Yeah, easily cost objection or insurance objections.
Yep. And so right now, over the phone, how are we handling those to get them in the door?
So main thing is, again, asking the right questions early on, because that's also essentially a lot of what your ammo is going to be when you go to work to overcome their objection. For example, like asking, like, what have they tried? And they're like, yeah, I've tried physical therapy in the past. Well, why do you feel like that didn't work? Oh, I was treated by, I looked over across the table and there was another elderly lady that was doing the same exercise I was doing. And I'm a runner and go to the gym 3 times per week. We're on different levels doing the same exercise. So that was frustrating and just didn't feel like I really got a lot of time with the physical therapist or whatever they say, right? Just make note of that. And then you can use that down the road if you get insurance or a cost objection on it. And, also ask them, like, is it getting better or is it not getting better? A lot of times it's getting worse, they say, right? It appears into that. And so it's really about a lot of the questions that you ask beforehand. And like asking, obviously, like, what goals do they have? What level do they want to get to? Right? Especially if it's like a runner and they're a high level, like, yeah, I really don't have a whole lot of pain throughout the day. Great. Well, if you get a cost or insurance objection, you can use that. Like, hey, the reason that you didn't get the results that you wanted to at the other clinic, you said that this is not what you want. This is what you get with insurance-based clinic. And this is exactly why we don't take insurance. Right. And just explaining to them the difference between that. Just essentially, like, I'm also really laid back on my calls. Like, if you listen to my calls, they're not really that professional. Like, they're actually, you would think I was actually talking to a friend. Like, I use like slang. I'm casual. I'm laid back on it. And when I get an objection, like, it comes off more authentic because I've been real with them the entire time. And when I overcome objections, I'm communicating it the same way. Like if they say like, hey, I want to use my insurance, like, hey, I almost laugh. I'm like, hey, totally understand. Like we hear that all the time. But can I be real with you real quick? I'm like, sure, great. Well, you just told me that you've been to insurance-based clinics like 3 times over the last like 5 years and haven't got your result. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Would you be opposed to just coming in for one session, seeing how we do things? There's no obligation to continue on. Obviously, you're not going to get this issue solved in one visit, but you just need to see the difference between what we do and insurance-based care. Because if you go the insurance route, it's going to be happening for the 4th time. I've got X, Y, and Z available. Which ones will work best for you? Right. So that's the thing, is like overcome their objection, like attack their objection and work to overcome it, but make sure that you're repitching. That's where you guys see how I didn't just stay like trying like, hey, this is this. What I did is I overcame or worked at his objection and then gave him an offer of just one session, helping bridge that gap for him, and then offer times. Yep. Most people just don't do that, and it's just like it's like a battle back and forth, just a verbal battle. You never gave them an opportunity to say yes. So you got to make sure that you're repitching.
100%. So it's important, like, especially on like the front end when you're on calls, like what are the most common objections that you're likely to get towards the end of the call? And then we ask strategic questions to give us outcomes that we can later use at the end of that call, so that if we get that objection, it's like, but you just said that, you know, your wife is fully on board and supports you in investing yourself to solve this problem, you know, or, you know, as you said, or it's like, you already said that you've tried the insurance route 3 separate times. Like, what do you think is going to be different this time around? And so in the beginning of the call is always asking, you know, what have you already tried to solve this problem? What did you like about that? What didn't you like about that? Well, did other people with the same kind of issue get results working with them? Well, why do you feel like you got different results? So what would you be looking for in physical therapy this time around that you think you would need to get the absolute best result that you can? And then asking questions like that can help you tailor your approach to getting them actually scheduled later on when you tailor your pitch around the things that they said that they wanted and the things that they didn't want. Now, when we actually get into the evaluation, there's also some really powerful things that we can do to make sure that we're in sales. When we're asking questions, we're asking them strategically to get certain outcomes. Just like in healthcare, we're looking for certain outcomes, things where they're saying, here's why I need to do this now. Here's what I want. Here's what I don't want. Yes, I'm fully committed to doing this now. Yes, my spouse is completely on board with me investing in myself. Those are all outcomes that we want to get before we ever make a recommendation, so that when we get objections, we have this deck that we've stacked up that we can use to logically explain people through making the best decision for themselves. Right. So like one of the questions that one of our coaches, AJ, and he and I have been revamping all of our like sales training for his staff. And one of the questions that we're asking in the very beginning of the sessions is, you know, you could have, you know, first of all, like, really glad that you're here today, and, you know, for actually investing in your health. Like, tell me, like, why did you decide to come to kind of a specialized boutique physical therapy clinic rather than going in network? You know, a lot of people decide to use their insurance and then they get taken through this crucible of paying, you know, $100 every couple of months and never actually solving the problem. So like, what made you decide you wanted to come in and do this? And so it's like, it gives them the identity of someone who actually invests in their health versus being what everyone else does, which goes through just like this never ending loop of treatment, so that they have that identity now. And now they're explaining to you why they decided to come in and try this brand new thing. And so now that they've given themselves and accepted this identity and explained why they did it, it's going to be harder for them to decide, like, to take away that identity from them at the end of the session.
Right. I think people grasp at an identity, and when they have to go back and say that they're actually not that, it's very hard for people to do.
Right. Exactly. And so the other common objections that we're getting are like, if you ask that question in the very beginning, that is going to pre-handle a lot of your costs and your insurance objections. You're still going to have to work through that a little bit with some people towards the end. But if you start at the very beginning with them explaining why they didn't go the traditional route and why they wanted to do this particularly, it's going to give you a lot of ammo to use when they are fearful to make that investment later on. Because it's very rarely about, them having the money or not. It's really a value question. Because, for example, because I know a lot of people listening, they're like, no. A lot of people will don't have the money to invest in this. I get it. I understand that perspective. But at the same time, if I offered you a Lamborghini for $5,000, how hard would you work to go and find $5,000? I can make that same deal with a crackhead. He's going to go find $5,000, whether he's got to rob somebody or steal it. He's going to find $5,000. Now, that's like an extreme example, but it goes to show that when people say something's too expensive, it is only that they don't see the value. And so if you start off your evaluations with them stacking the value on why they decided to do this versus the other things, it's going to increase your perceived value and help make the cost more reasonable in the mind of the patient you're speaking with.
100%. That's all it is. It's just a value equation. It's simple as that. And people will want it. You can, when it comes to business, you can compete on value, compete on price.
Right.
And you don't want to compete on price, race to the bottom.
Right.
So figure out a way to build that value.
Right. And so another talk track that I'd recommend using, because the other most common objection you're going to get is the spouse objection, which again is really just a smokescreen for a cost objection, because they're not going to call their spouse to, buy groceries, right? Okay. So it's really just a matter of how much the thing costs. And so a way to kind of pre-handle that in the beginning when we're going through the subjective assessment is after we ask them, like, why did you decide to do this? Well, what's going on? What have you tried? How long has that been going on? Well, that sounds frustrating. Like, how's that been impacting other areas of your life? Are you married? Do they know about this? Are they supportive of you investing in your health so that you can get back to doing X, Y, and Z? Great. I think that's super important to make sure that you have a home and a partner who's on board with you, making the changes necessary to change your life. Move on. So now, very, very quick, you've already given yourself the ammo where they said that their spouse is completely on board with them investing in their health, and it took less than 30 seconds. Now, at the end of your evaluation, it's going to be harder for them to be like, yeah, I just have to go talk to their spouse. And it's like, oh, I thought you said that they were completely on board with this. I'm sorry. I thought everyone was on the same page already. And so it's harder for them to bring it up when they said that, yeah, they're good to go.
Yeah. So you guys can see the importance of asking the right questions early on. It's going to help so much with overcoming those objections too. So the thing too about spouse objections that we see almost every time that we bring on a new PT, that's not quite where they need to be with sales. It just takes time. They seem to always get more spouse objections. Are we just giving patients that are married to the new PTs? No. What we're doing is it's a smoke screen. It's a smoke screen. So that's the thing. So a lot of times, not all the time, but quite a bit, it's spouse objections are also smoke screens that they're just using their spouse as an excuse. So make sure that you isolate the objection. Hey, outside of also the spouse, fully understand that aspect. Outside of that, scale 1 to 10, where are you at with knowing that this will help you and that you want to do this? Okay, if they're probably a 7 or 8. Hey, to understand what would it take to get you to a 10? Now you're truly attacking the objection. If they say it's a 10, and then it's truly a spouse objection. But you'll be surprised on how many times people will be like, yeah, outside of that, I'm still a 7 or an 8 out of it. Well, what's missing?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So then you attack that, and then a lot of times you overcome that, and they're able to move forward. You don't even talk about the spouse objection. So make sure that you're isolating whenever you get an objection. Make sure that you're isolating it and making sure that there's nothing else going on, because a lot of times you can figure out what is the value that you have not communicated that's missing before you start attacking an objection that's actually not the true objection.
Right. And so, yeah, let's transition to, our third point here, which is the talk tracks that you need to go through whenever you get any objection ever. The first step is always isolating it, as Ben said. And I just learned recently another way to do the same, like on a scale of 1 to 10, like how sure are you that this is going to work? And I absolutely love it. So I'm going to just role play it with you real quick. So aside from needing to speak with your spouse, Ben, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe that the plan I've laid out to you is what you need to get back to, exercising more consistently and doing a tough mutter? Tough mutter? Is that what it's called? Yeah. Didn't sound right. So on a scale of 1 to 10.
8.
An 8. Great. Well, why not a 1?
And so I see what you're doing. All right. So, well, I really like that you guys, like clearly you guys, like this first time that I've actually talked to a medical professional, that's actually listened to what I have to say. You guys I looked at your guys' Google reviews. You guys help a lot of other people like myself. I read the reviews. They're awesome. It's essentially all 5-star. So I know that you help other people. You have PTs that you say that can help. And I really like that you guys I looked at your guys' space. You've got squat racks. I love, like, that's why I'm coming here, because I'm having knee pain with squats. A lot of these other clinics just don't have that environment. So a lot of it comes down to that.
Got it. So you're at an 8. So do you believe that this would get you back to lifting and running marathons?
I'd like to think so.
Well, why?
But I've just been burnt so much by other physical therapists. I'm skeptical of working with another one.
Got it. So what would get you to a 10 today? Like, what would make this an absolute yes today?
I don't know. I guess part of me is always going to be skeptical just because I've been burned so much.
Well, I guess if you don't know what would make it an absolute yes and a no-brainer, like, you for sure should know what would make it a no. So what would make it a no?
I guess I don't know.
Right. So from there, now that we've basically isolated that, it's like, okay, right now they just have a certainty objection, where now it's like, okay, I don't know what would make it a no. And it's like, okay, so it sounds like you want to do this. You're just uncertain around whether or not this is actually going to work with you. Then you can go into your satisfaction guarantee. You can break it down where it's like, okay, so I'm kind of sensing that you're just a little like uncertain around the investment. So I guess compared to what it is you've already gone through with the past, what have you already identified that feels different about the experience that we just went through? And you can start to ask them questions that helps to make them feel more certain about it. So they said that it was a spouse objection, but really, from based off of the role play we just did with Ben, it's not a money objection, it's a certainty objection. Now, if you go through certainty, you might find that then it'll become a cost objection, but you got to work through certainty before you can get to overcoming the cost objection. But what I really like about that one is like the scale of 1 to 10. Well, why is it not a 1? Then they explain all the things that they like about you. Then it's like, well, so you feel like it's going to work. Why do you feel like it's going to work though? Okay, what would make this an absolute yes? Like, what would make it a 10? Then they might say something where it's like, yeah, if we can just do this, then maybe you can adjust something. Most of the time they're going to say, I'm not sure. And it's like, well, then if you don't know what makes it a yes, you for sure should know what would make this an absolute no. And then at that point, typically they're going to say, it's like, well, it's just expensive. Now you've figured out like what the real objection is, and you can actually work through it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I like that. And that's really powerful, because it gets them to sell themselves on you before you start asking about the reasons, like where that gap is with it.
Right.
So I do like that. I really like that. Yeah. That thing too is like, some people, I encourage people to have guarantees.
Yeah.
Within their practice sparingly. You don't want to broadcast it to every single patient that walks through your door.
Right.
But if there's somebody on the phone that I know that we can help, and they just like have this certainty issue, and I've had a good communication with them, I can tell like they're a good person.
Right.
Like they're not going to, I know that if this person comes in and we do a decent job, they're not going to ask for a refund, because they're a decent person and human being, and see that our intentions are good. So there's different types of guarantees. There's a outcome guarantee and a satisfaction guarantee. I think it's bullshit to offer outcome guarantee in the healthcare. Like, you just can't promise an outcome. Like, I don't know if they're going to do their exercises. I don't know how their diabetes, if they have diabetes, is going to actually play a factor into. There's so many things that you can't. So we don't have an outcome guarantee, but we have a satisfaction guarantee. So I tell people that you will come in, and if you are not satisfied or happy with this first session and how it went and how it goes, I'll give you your money back. Right. So that's how I explain it to people on the phone. Like, hey, it sounds like you've been burned. That's where most of our patients have been. That's why actually most people work with us, because they want to try something different and they know they need something different.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do for you is you just need a chance to come in and see how we're different. If you come, let's get you scheduled for an evaluation. And if you are not happy at the end of that or satisfied after that end of that session, I'll refund you. Won't pay a dime. That being said, I have X, Y, and Z available. Do those work for you?
Yep. I love that. So whenever you're getting an objection, you have to isolate it until you find the real objection that's going on. So the framework that I like to follow, and there's a lot of different ones that you can, it's like, okay, aside from needing to speak to your spouse, do you believe the plan that I laid out today will get you back to X, Y, and Z? Why though? Okay, so aside from needing to speak to your spouse, you would do this. And so have them explain why they would do it. Then you double tie down. Then it's like, okay, so if it wasn't for just needing to speak with your spouse or think about it or time or money, you would do this. And then you can go through, the rest of the objection handling framework, which is cost of inaction, and then explain with logic. So if, for example, like when Ben and I just went through that talk track and I identified that certainty is the real concern at the time, well, then I would say, okay, so if you're 100% sure that this would work, would you do it? And then again, that isolates. It's like, okay, is this really just a certainty thing, or is this a smoke screen for cost? So whenever someone gives an objection, don't freeze up, just isolate the problem. Make sure you understand what's actually going on. If they say it's expensive, ask them, it's like, compared to what? Expensive compared to what? What do you mean by that? Okay, because they might mean that it's like, I definitely don't have the money. I have $2 in my bank account. It could be, that would be really uncomfortable for me based on my budget. Or it could just mean this seems expensive based off of, it could just be expensive for physical therapy or compared to a copay. But until you understand what they mean when they say expensive, you handle each and every one of those very differently. So ask what it is they mean by that. I don't have the time. What do you mean by that? This is expensive. What do you mean by that? Expensive compared to what? I need to talk to my spouse. That makes perfect sense. So aside from your spouse, would you do it? There's so much we could talk about and unpack here, but I want to give this as kind of a starting point to, one, help reshape all of your perspectives on what sales actually is. Because great leaders don't tell people what to do. They ask great questions. And so it's not about getting the sale. It's about helping people shift their beliefs around what is normal in healthcare, because everyone has a way of thinking that they've been indoctrinated into where they just feel like they need to use their insurance. They don't understand the repercussions of that. And it's our responsibility to help guide them to understand the pros and cons of doing either one.
It just comes down to what's best for the patient. And that's what it is. Like, right. I have no problem advocating and helping people get to where they need to. And it's my ethical obligation to learn how to do that. And if I don't take that upon myself to learn, then I'm not being the type of person that I hold myself to be and would want other people to be. It's kind of the last point that I'll make that's really powerful is if you went to also not assuming what people can afford and what they cannot afford, and projecting and changing your recommendation based on what you think they'll say yes to. So if you had cancer and you went to go see a chemo doc and he recommended half a dosage that he knew that wouldn't save your life, but it's one that he thought that you could afford, and you end up passing away, how pissed would you be that that doctor did not explain to you what you actually needed because of his judgment or assumption of what you could afford and could not afford?
Right.
Like that's what it comes to. Like, obviously that's a very extreme example. It's life and death. I can make a case a lot of times, when it comes to pain medication addiction, on somebody undergoing surgery, there's maybe orthopedic surgeries are pretty straightforward and safe, but at the same time, you're still undergoing anesthesia. There's no, in my opinion, super safe surgery. There's always a chance, and you are subjecting somebody potentially to surgery or pain medication addiction because they didn't get the help that they needed to through you, because you projected and did not do your ethical obligation on learning how to do motivational interviewing, ask the right questions, and push them to what's best for them.
Right. Like if I had a really sketchy looking freckle, I was just black, gross, and did not look like something I should have in my body, and the doctor was like, yeah, no, we can remove this for this amount. And I just said, no, I think I'll just wait and see how it goes. And they just said like, okay, yeah, no problem. Just give me a call back. I can follow up with you in a week to see what you think. And then I die. I like that scenario would never happen because they are not going to allow me to leave without having the information that, no, this is a really bad issue that could mean skin cancer and you need to do something about this. Okay. But a lot of PTs, it's not as extreme as all of that, but it's like, that's pretty much what people are doing. And it's what's causing people to go into the traditional based clinic, going through the hamster wheel of treatment to treatment to treatment to treatment until they give up on what it is they want to do. And because your inability to ask tough questions and hold a mirror up to people, their life 10, 20, 30 years from now is completely different because they never decided to prioritize their health and take the action required to keep themselves healthy. Instead, they just did the status quo, do what everyone does, and basically stops being active by the time they're 50. Anyway, everybody, we should do a lot more training specifically on objection handling because this goes so deep. But I think if everyone here can at the very least start to isolate objections, not just take them at face value and challenge them a little bit and ask what it is that people mean, you're going to do so much better. If you can just do that one piece, then you're not only going to close way more people and help way more people, but then we can start to open the door and feeling more comfortable with true leadership, which is helping people isolate the right problems, helping them see the cost of inaction, and then helping them by using logic understand like, okay, if the cost of inaction is this, well then X, Y, and Z, we should be doing this. And so we'll cover more sales training in future podcasts, but if you got value out of this, let us know inside of the comments. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you.
Later, everybody.